A spectacle like no other, held in one of the world's largest stadiums, depicting the birth of a nation, culture and ideology. Sometimes set around a theme, sometimes not. These massive performances date back over a century, through the Soviet Union, Eastern Bloc, to the ages of kings and emperors in Europe. Today, they're held only in one country, the DPRK. These are the Mass Games. The first instance of mass games that's somewhat similar to the modern iteration in Pyongyang started in the 19th century, far away from the Korean peninsula, here in the mishmash of states that made up modern-day Germany. The father of these gymnastic groups, known as Turnverein, was Friedrich Jahn. At the time, Napoleon's forces occupied most of Western Europe, and so the mass gymnastic displays were seen as a way to unite the Germanic people against their imperialist neighbour. The idea soon spread to the northern region of Austria-Hungary, later Czechoslovakia, which sought to utilise such mass displays to boost national pride and overcome the small size of their country. A group known as the Sokols formed, embodying the same underlying principles as their German predecessors. The first mass games, known in Czechoslovakia as a slet, was held in 1882. Such celebrations continued until the Nazi invasion and the Munich Agreement in 1938. After which it was suppressed. However, such displays continued in the aftermath of the Second World War, in the form of the Soviet Union's Spartakiad. Named after Spartacus, seen by many as a proletariat hero of the classical age, it was a sporting event, similar to the Olympics, held between the different Soviet republics, and the event included a mass games-esque performance. Soon, mass games had begun to spread across the communist world, as the symbolism of thousands of people working together in unison to create something breathtaking aligned very well with the political ideology of socialism, banding together for a common cause. Often performed to celebrate national holidays, visiting delegations, and the opening of major events, the fall of the USSR in 1991 meant the popularity of such displays declined. However, one country defied the rest, continuing to perform the mass games, increasing the scale, grandeur, and sheer awe in the process. The first mass games in the DPRK was held in 1948. 전국 종합체육대회에서 집단체조 공연, or the mass gymnastics performance at the National Sports Festival, was held the same year as the founding of the country. Before we go any further, it's common for people to conflate the mass games with the Arirang Mass Games. By far the most famous edition of the games, Arirang ran from 2002 to 2013. But it's not synonymous with all mass games in the DPRK. Games were held in stadiums all over the country, although the pinnacle was the Moranbong Stadium, rebuilt after the Korean War and later renamed Kim Il-sung Stadium in 1982. It has been the site of many mass games performances, although rarely used today for reasons we'll address in a moment. The indoor stadium in Pyongyang on the bank of the Potong River is another venue which has hosted mass gymnastic performances in the nation's capital. These venues pale in comparison, however, to the Rungnado Mayday Stadium. The largest in the world by official capacity, the stadium was built in 1989 in the heart of Pyongyang and is the modern home to the mass games. Let's quickly jump back to Czechoslovakia in 1947, to the opening of the first World Festival of Youth and Students. Held around the world since the 1940s, this event became an international celebration, dominated by Soviet-aligned, Communist-allied and Communist countries and organisations. The largest such event was held over 8 days in July 1989, in Pyongyang. Opened on May Day 1989, the May Day Stadium served as the main venue for the festivities, including a mass games performance for the opening ceremony. 22,000 youths from 177 countries descended upon Pyongyang for the festival. Each day had a separate theme. Opening ceremonies, peace, independence and national liberation, the environmental crisis, friendship and international solidarity, the rights of youth and students, the day of the host country, and closing ceremonies. Today, mass games are almost exclusively held in the Rungnado Stadium, and have increased in substance, scale, and sheer awe. The most famous and long-lasting performance was Arirang, which ran, non-continuously, between 2002 and 2013. The performance is often considered the quintessential DPRK Mass Games performance, although since its closure, there have been other performances, such as Glorious Country in 2018 and People's Country in 2019. Whilst most mass games embody the same themes of the Juche ideology, single-hearted unity, Songun politics, reunification, and the importance of building a socialist country, each performance often tells a completely unique story. This is the story of the Arirang Mass Games. It's worth noting, the performance evolved over the years, and so we'll be focusing on the 2012 Arirang performance. Since 2002, scenes were changed, cut, added, rewritten or re-choreographed, and so this is by no means a full description of Arirang, just of this iteration. After a brief introduction, the performance opens with a rendition of the traditional folk song Arirang in front of a projected background depicting the Arirang folktale. At the end of this opening, the first act begins. Act 1 is entitled Arirang Ninja, or Arirang Nation. The opening tells the story of President Kim Il-sung's journey from his home in Mangyongdae to join the anti-Japanese revolution, concluding in his triumphant return in 1945 to Pyongyang. The first scene is packed full of iconography, starting with the depiction of life under the yoke of Japanese rule, with Koreans fighting against their oppression, concluding in an image of a star rising above the forest. The star continues to rise, igniting a beacon atop the stadium. The following scene opens with the flag of the Down with Imperialism Union, created by President Kim Il-sung in 1926, being formed on the card screen. Tributes are paid to important figures of the revolution before performers form the word Juche in the centre of the stadium. Other notable scenes include a performance depicting revolutionaries at the Paektusan secret camp, from where the revolution was directed, the return of President Kim Il-sung to Pyongyang in 1945, symbolised by the Arch of Triumph, and finally, with an image of the national flag and national emblem. The final scene includes a performance of soldiers of the Korean People's Army, culminating in the images of the President Kim Il-sung and the General Kim Jong-il on the card screen, greeted by thunderous applause. Act 2 is entitled Songun Arirang, or Military First Arirang. The second act opens in darkness, as a large Kim Jong-ilia flower takes centre stage, surrounded by women in white. The second scene depicts idyllic life in a socialist Korea, as thousands of children dance and perform in the stadium. The screen depicts images of technological advances, stunning architecture, idyllic villages, children playing, and other beautiful scenes. The following two scenes of the act are dedicated to agriculture and light industry respectively, whilst the final scene is themed around the defence of the country against outside aggressors, with a mass taekwondo performance ending with the performers marching off stage, holding aloft the national flag. Act 3 is entitled Hengbok Arirang, or Arirang of Happiness. The opening scene of the third act is themed around the birth of the General Kim Jong-il at the Paektusan secret camp in northern Korea. The ubiquitous image of the log cabin beneath Jong-il Peak, the official birthplace of the general, is displayed at the back of the stadium, as performers, clad in white, represent the snowy conditions. This first scene is contrasted immediately by a stunning acrobatics show encompassing trapeze artists, vehicles and coloured lights. The third and final scene of this act is dedicated to the invincible might of Korea, all culminating in the performers amassing in the centre of the stadium to form the emblem of the Workers' Party of Korea. Act 4 is entitled Tongyil Arirang, or Arirang of Reunification. Opening with a long monologue about the division of the country since 1945, supported by a projected video onto the screen at the back. The first scene has two large groups of women in white, dancing apart before coming together to form an image of the Korean peninsula, as various reunification-themed patriotic images are displayed on the screen at the back. Perhaps the most distinctive image displayed is the monument to the three charters of national reunification, or the Arch of Reunification. You can find out more about that in my Monuments of Pyongyang video. Act 5 is entitled Chinson Arirang, or Arirang of Friendship. This act is devoted to the commemoration of the Sino-Korean alliance and the comradeship between Beijing and Pyongyang during the Korean War and beyond. A lot of the iconography is themed around China and the relationship between the DPRK and PRC, including a beautiful image of the Amnok River, the border between the two countries, displayed on the card screen. The act culminates in the two national flags being held aloft together in the centre of the stadium. In addition to this, since the fifth act is themed heavily around China, many of the slogans on the screen at the back of the stadium are displayed both in Choseongeul and Mandarin. The final act is entitled Kangsong Puhung Arirang, or Arirang of Power and Prosperity. Opening on a scene of Korea's mountains, thousands of performers in red flood the stage, creating stunning patterns and moving shapes in the stadium. The act as a whole is themed around the future prosperity of Korea. One of the most distinctive moments in the performance is when a huge globe is rolled onto the stage, with the whole Korean peninsula coloured in red. The performance culminates as the military song Footsteps starts up, accompanied by fireworks and thousands of performers rushing to the stage for the finale. Before concluding, I want to say thanks for watching and enjoying the content I've been making. If you're interested in supporting the channel and getting access to some of the perks, such as early access and behind the scenes from DPRK Explained, please check out my Patreon, which is linked in the description. Remember to like and subscribe to the channel with your notifications on so you know when the next video comes out. And as always, suggestions are welcome in the comments. And so, with that, I'll leave you with the finale of the Arirang Mass Games. Thanks for watching.